what you got to have the Judas Priest sound. So whoever's writing that, as we know from the years, it was usually Glenn, KK, and Rob. Those three got most of the credits on the records. And so, that's the sound. And whoever writes that, that's who needs to be bringing that. And, Ron Lafitte, obviously, who managed us back in the 90s. And I remember we were talking about
as well as Armored Saint.
As well as Armored Saint. Yep. Mm-hmm. And he, Ron was those were really our big upswing years, Rest in Peace, Countdown, Euthanasia. And Ron is a real student of the music industry. He's born and raised in LA, so he loves the Lakers. The coach, Pat Riley, was his hero. He'd read his books, he'd study strategy from him. And he used a lot of Pat Riley's methodology in managing Megadeth. And, he loved with the Rest in Peace lineup that now we were a new nucleus, a lot of creativity that could happen, between us. And it developed over a few records, of course, in the 90s. And, there were always these, the publishing conversations were never fun or easy in that band, you know what I mean? Because of just, kind of the lay of the land. And it was good at times. And I think our bigger successes with that lineup for sure were the more, collaborative things, because we know with rock groups, it isn't just the song, it's the culture. It's like, I want to see those guys, I want to see those 4 Cheap Trick guys, those 5 Judas Priest guys, those 4 Megadeth guys. And it's important that they, because you kind of get your own fans too within that, right? And they want to see you be part of it. They want to hear you be part of it. I didn't know Ace Frehley didn't play at some of those solos on Destroyer or whatever records it was, side 4 of Kiss Alive 2. Yeah. Apparently, Bob Kulick, Bruce's brother, played on a lot of that stuff.
Rick Derringer and
Rick Derringer, yeah.
Rick Wagner.
And I think those were maybe for other reasons, and who knows, as bands grow, all kinds of things happen. But, for the most part, we never had that in our group, but it's people want to hear that and feel that. So I think there's always an open door for, I remember even at one point, I think we had something like, hey, we're going to take one song and just split it 4 ways between everybody, because who knows who's on the creative pulse at that particular time. And of course, in Megadeth, the pressure was on Dave. He was the Tom Brady. He was, he had to write, the bulk of it. And it was his sort of voice that needed to be heard in those songs. Even if I wrote something, I knew when I brought it to the door, it was going to now go through that machine, go through Dave's hands and fingers, the influence of the other members. So it sounded like Megadeth,
Had to fit his voice, yeah.
100%. And that was one of the things writing lyrics, with him, for him, is writing stuff that I knew he could stand up on stage and sing. He could sing it comfortably, confidently. It was believable, you know what I mean? And I think that got harder over the years. Maybe earlier on it was a little easier, because we were sort of developing. I go back to like Foreclosure of a Dream and Breakpoint and some stuff we wrote during like the Countdown era, when we were that very collaborative record. And we wrote a lot of that while we were on the Clash of the Titans tour in 1991. We knew we had to get home and cut the next record. And Lafitte said, he goes, this one really needs to step up. I mean, we got to really knock it out of the park. The Metallica Black album was out. Queensryche Empire was huge on MTV. Little did we know Nirvana in Seattle was hot on our tails, and they'd be the next thing. So, Ron his instincts were correct. And, I remember one day, we were talking about the writing and stuff, and he just said, he goes, for the most part, Dave is bringing in the highest quality material faster than everybody else, which is why we default and defer to that material. And the stuff he's writing was great, of course, Sweating Bullets, Symphony of Destruction. So, you lead with your strength.
Can't shake a stick at those 2 songs right there.
Right. And those were just very intuitive and kind of, I just watched them just sort of fall out. We'd rehearse, we'd take a break, we'd go outside, we'd shoot basketball, we'd shoot hoops, we'd come back in, pour a coffee, Dave would pick up his guitar, start chugging a riff. And at the same time, those were days that were, like I remember when Symphony started, it was the just.
Yeah.
right? That's what it was. And then Nick comes into the boop, boop. So I start kind of playing Dave's part, right? And then I go, well, what would Ian Hill do? He'd ride.
Yeah.
Right? He'd ride.
Yeah.
Right. And then now you got a bass line, right? Because there's a guitar riff, the drum part. So, you know, in a lot of ways, and this, you know, you've been in enough bands, you know, who wrote the song? Well, certainly Dave came up with the riff and this transitions and stuff. But even like the chorus where, you know, it's a descending chorus. Right? So I kind of copped what I felt Jason Newsted would do, if I can be honest about it.
Oh.
Kind of from Enter Sandman. He would probably walk up from the bottom. So So as the guitar is going down, I'm coming up. We meet in the middle. Right? We pick up that little tag of the riff, and then we start all over. Meet in the middle, right? And so, you know, so those are the days, you know, and it's hard because I think truthfully those were more group collaborations, you know, than probably we're credited for, but it is what it is. And at some point, you know, is this the hill you want to die on, fighting over this? We're ready to go make the biggest record of our lives. And at some point, I think people fold their hand and, you know, all right, well, fuck it, this is what it is. But you know, that's not to take anything away from anybody who did that. I mean, obviously Dave was quarterbacking that stuff. He used his melodies, his thought, you know, and the lyrics and stuff. So, you know, that's a big part of bands, as you know, too, is it isn't just the word, the note, it's about how it all comes together. Like, you're a lead singer, Jason, so you know when you're fronting the band, you essentially are the spokesperson for everyone behind you. As great as your drummer is, as killer as your lead guitar player is, you know, when the singer starts singing, kind of all eyes go there.